Yes, as to all of you Souvla lovers out there. For those of you who don't know what a Souvla is, it's basically like as if you crossed a classic rotisserie style cooking where you're cooking an entire animal like a pig or a chicken on a rotisserie, and your classic souvlaki kebabs, which are these little morsels of meat you just put on a little stick and cook over a flame. So the souvla is like these tennis ball sized chunks of meat. Usually it's either pork, chicken, or lamb. And it's very popular in Cyprus, also popular in Greece. And I just really love the concept and I really wanted to give it a try. So I bought an inexpensive Souvla grill, and I have a separate video on this grill. I assembled it and I had to actually modify it to make it work because it wasn't of a high quality when I got it. It had defects. So you want to watch that, please go ahead. And this is my first attempt at making a Souvla on my own. Now, I live in the United States, and Souvla isn't really a known thing outside of the Cypriot Greek community here. So, you can't really get a Souvla grill easily, and you got to just do your YouTubes, and usually you'll hear people from either Cyprus, Greece, or, the Commonwealth countries like England and Australia who would talk about how to do a Souvla. So I watched those videos, and I did my best. I asked a little bit on a Cypriot forum, and I was particularly interested in what people's opinions were about marinated and not marinated. And basically the classic Souvlists are always saying just salt and meat, and that's it. That's kind of like an asado style approach to doing your barbecue. So the weather was good yesterday. I decided to give this a go. I'm not exactly pleased with my result, but maybe you can watch this video and learn something from it, and maybe even drop me a couple of lines of advice, which I always appreciate. So enjoy the show. So we have our Cyprus t-shirt on, and now we can go and do our Souvla. We are going to start by making sure that our grill is ready to rock. Here's the star of the show, and it's in Souvla mode. I have the 3 big skewers over here. You're also able to do souvlaki if you use this little panel and you put these little skewers over here, or you can slap a grill grate on top of this if you just want to do old-fashioned style charcoal barbecue. Here's the motor for this thing. This motor is actually sold separately from the grill, and there are a number of these motors for sale. This runs on D-cell batteries, 1.5 volt. There's also those that run off of the AC, and that's probably a better idea to get an AC motor because batteries tend to die at the wrong time as usual. So you pop this in here like this, and now the trick is to get this to key in here into the square. It looks like it's a good fit. Let's see. You just kind of have to jiggle the skewers a little bit to make sure it works. And now you just press the switch. It goes in 2 directions, so it doesn't really matter. Obviously, I don't think your meat cares which way it rotates. So it's rotating a little slow. I've seen some Souvla motors rotate a little bit more aggressively. I don't think that does anything, honestly. Probably just eats up batteries quicker. So we'll see. Hopefully this won't have any issues rotating while we're cooking. I'm not much of a charcoal griller. Here in the States, we usually use propane to grill. But over here, this is a classic situation where you have to use charcoal. I don't think you can do a Souvla without charcoal. Yeah, charcoal's a pain. I've done it before. But there are people who swear it's the only way to have a good barbecued meal. Here you see I have a little bit of cardboard here with some twigs to start the fire, and I laid these charcoals out because we had a pretty wet season right now, so I just wanted them to dry out a little bit before we got cooking. So let's see if I can get this fire started. Again, I haven't really done much charcoal, so I'm still getting back into the swing of this. And no starter fluid, because starter fluid stinks up your food, and if you're going to go through the trouble of making something like Souvla, shame on you if you need to resort to such means to get the job done. And now I have a little cardboard that I'm going to use to literally fan the flames here, try to get this thing going. And hopefully that charcoal is going to start igniting. From what I've seen, it takes about usually a good half hour to get a good to get everything rocking here. So we're going to hope that in that time period we can start doing all of our preparation. All right, well, not going so easy. Maybe the coals are a little bit moist, a little humid, so I'm going to use some shredded paper to help me out here, make up for my bad technique. So see my charred hand. Okay, so what are we going to cook? Chicken thighs seem to be a pretty standard for Souvlas, so we're going to do some chicken thighs. And the big debate is to marinate or not to marinate. And I decided to not marinate my meat because the real hardcore Souvla people say just salt. That's it. The Souvla does all the work. So we're going to test that theory and see what just plain old Souvla'd chicken thighs taste like. Not much work to do here. All you got to do is just take them out. A little olive oil maybe, and salt, of course, and that's it. The pork is the next meat that I'm going to do. That's also a fairly traditional thing to do, and this is a ham butt. So this has enough crispy skin that should get very nice once the Souvla gets going there. And I'm gonna have to cut this big piece up. Just look at all of that crispy fat that's gonna sizzle very nicely and drip right into the charcoal. That's part of the reason to do a Souvla, because you get all this nice auto basting going on for a whole 2 hours. So I'm not a butcher, obviously, and you got to be able to cut through bone if you want to work with a piece like this. So that's why you get a nice sharp, of course, knife like this, and or a cleaver, I think this is called. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because Souvla chunks are supposed to be big. You see the sizes that I'm cutting here? Hopefully that'll be right. And this is not a souvlaki, right? So we want big chunks. When you're not experienced in how to butcher meat, you end up with very odd pieces like this that have lots of meat in it and lots of bone, and you can't do anything with this. It's a little tricky, so The third traditional meat that is souvla'd is lamb. The only problem is that I have a lot of meat on my hands, and I'm just cooking for 2 right now, and most of this food's going to end up in the fridge anyway. So I don't want to go ahead and do the lamb yet. I'm going to see if I really mess this Souvla up. This will be a great opportunity to do my next batch and use lamb. So yeah, we're going to put this away for now. We have plenty of meat over here, and we have plenty of meat over here. So that's more than enough for us to get going today. Here are our coals, and they look like they're pretty hot. These guys haven't gotten going yet, really, but this is already workable. These guys have to still catch a little more fire to them. So maybe we'll just rearrange these and just try to get this fire a little hotter again, so these dark coals can all turn white, and then we're ready to grill. I'm actually still paranoid about the fact that this charcoal might be damp, and I'm just really trying to put some extra briquettes, make sure I really have enough of a bed of heat to work with here, because this thing's got to be cooking for 2 hours, so we got to make sure we don't screw this up. We are skewering our thighs, as all these videos suggest. You kind of fold them up. The problem with the Souvla often is that you get a situation where if you don't secure this, you see I have another skewer here I'm using. If you don't secure this, what starts happening is that the chicken starts to kind of rotate as this thing is rotating. In other words, it has the same effect as if the chicken wasn't rotating and the stick is just rotating. So you have to kind of use another skewer, or whatever. Some people use wooden skewers to hold this in place. Okay, the big magic moment. Here we go. I'm going to start this off on top just to get an idea of how this whole thing is supposed to be. So keying in the slot like that and resting it over here. So this is the top position of the Souvla, and my grill is set so that this is high. Okay, as the Souvla continues to cook, I'm going to lower it and loosen this thing up and lower the grill so it'll be closer to the flames. So here we go. Here's the big magic moment. Hey, look at that. Let's see, is this thing slipping or not? No, that's good. Okay, so you see that those skewers are holding the chicken in place so it doesn't start slipping and sliding. There we go. All right, we've started cooking our Souvla, and we're pretty high up off the flames because I'm still, kind of not very confident in what I'm doing here, so I'm trying to just take it as easy as I can and kind of feel this whole thing out. Here is the second star of the show, the pork. And we're gonna get that right. Actually, maybe I should turn off the motor here. Probably a good idea. I've seen people do it with the motor on, but something tells me that's not a good idea. Ah, heavy bugger. Okay, there we have it. Now let's get the motor going. You see I also put another skewer in here. I only had one more left, so hopefully that's enough to hold this thing. Let's see what happens now. All right, they are both rotating. and cooking. Now, as you see, I have the chicken a little higher. Not sure if that's the right decision or not. I'm just basically you know, kind of winging this right now. And we'll see how this works. I'm gonna have to redistribute the coals a little bit, get the heat a little bit more focused. And I already have a very slight hint of that, that dripping smell of the oils. Oh, speaking of which, they say you should drizzle a little olive oil on it once it's already on the grill. So here we go. Not much of it left here, unfortunately. There we go. Ah, there's a good Souvla smell. By the way, notice what's happening with this bit of meat here. It's stuck. So I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with that. It's sort of rotating, but not really. Oh, there we go. It's like I'm in Cyprus now. I had to put another skewer. I found another skewer, thank God. Oh, I see what it's doing. It's sticking out here. Ooh, that could be a problem. Yeah, I better fix that. All right, now we have 2 secure Souvla sticks. So yes, definitely need those extra skewers to keep these things in place. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. So they're merrily going along right now, and for some reason, it looks like it's just things switched direction on me, which is interesting. Is there anything blocking this? Oh boy, I think I have to probably squeeze it together better. This chicken is not being a happy customer here. It just kind of, it's not rotating fully for some reason. And I can't exactly figure out why that is. Is the motor overpowered, or we only have 2 skewers on here? We need to have a third one on here. Interesting. What I did now is I squeezed together the skewers a little closer, so they're not, this seems to be doing a better job of it holding on here. But you see that's sticking out. Maybe that's interfering somewhere over here. And that motor sounds like it's struggling to me, and that's a fresh single A, fresh D-size battery, so it's a Duracell too, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Is that normal? Is that not normal? I just did a little better job of squeezing this in here. Let's see if that helps any. No, not being cooperative, the chicken. The pork is doing fine, but not the chicken. I wonder why. What's holding it back? It's like it just doesn't want to go. This is still rotating. It's the fact that the chicken is not secure on the skewer. That's the problem. Oh dear, that's not a very good sign of confidence, is it now? Yeah, they did a pretty crummy job. This thing is not even, there's nothing fitting this thing in here to the wood. That's, in my opinion, that's pretty crappy design. Yeah. Oh, remember these crummy little souvlaki sticks? Well, turns out that they're just as easy to remove from the handles. So now I could use this extra one here and maybe a couple of others to really make sure this thing stays put. All right, I stabbed this chicken with like about 5 skewers, and the damn thing is still slipping on me, which really just makes me want to vomit. This handle flew off twice, as a result of which this chicken just decided to fly right into the charcoal. So good thing it's the chicken, because that's the cheapest meat that we have here. The pork seems to be doing pretty well. That chicken might just have to go on my gas grill if I can't get this to work right. Well, I must have reskewered that chicken 3 times, and it looks like it may finally be working. What I've realized what you need to do with this is you need to, first of all, make sure there's no tremendously overhanging pieces of meat over here, and you have to really just press that chicken down in there. It's, you know, and you gotta really just make sure before you put the skewer on the grill, you have to make sure that the chicken is holding. You gotta twist the skewer manually and see if the chicken starts slipping. If it does, don't put it on the grill until you get it to be firm and locked in. Unfortunately, because this thing has been, you know, flopping like crazy, it's probably not going to cook very evenly. But, you know, there's always a gas grill that helps make up for those sins. So that's that. Now, you may remember, if you watched my video on how I assembled this thing, that this grill can be up or down. You can lower it, in other words. And right now, as the coals have already pretty much burned a lot out, it's a pretty safe bet to say that it's a time to lower this grill. So what I have to do for that, I have to unscrew this, which is what is keeping this thing in place right now. I'm doing this with one hand, of course, which is always tricky. And now I am lowering the grill, you see? There we go. and now it's on the lower setting. And I don't have to actually technically lock this because this is the lowest setting that it has, so it's not going to go any further down. You can see that. So these little tabs here show you that it's you're at the end of the run. So now the coals, you see, they're kind of already burned out, and the souvla can be cooked a little lower. There is also an upper grill here too, so if you want to vary things around a little bit, have one lower, the other higher, that's fine as well. But this is how I'm going to have it right now, and thank God at least the chicken finally started to cooperate. Now, another thing I'm being concerned about here is that there's probably not enough charcoal to finish this batch. I mean, this really hasn't really cooked as well as I thought it would by now. And I'm going to have to probably get myself some more charcoal to get this thing to completion. Yeah. Well, I ran out of charcoal, so I had to go make a charcoal run. Inexperience. Okay, well, things have been going quite well for the pork. Things have been going absolutely terrible for the chicken. The chicken just refuses to stay on that skewer. It just slips right off. I really don't know what to do with this thing anymore. I might just go ahead and grill this the conventional way because I just can't get it to stick on there no matter what I do. It's impossible. The pork, meanwhile, solidly sticking on there, no problem. Just got some more charcoal going here. Okay, it is final. I give up. I tried everything. I even tried to double up the skewer, but then I realized that that doesn't actually work. To boot, this thing cracked and fell off entirely. So yeah, this grill has issues and this cook has issues. All right, well, that's that. No more souvla. This is now going to be a half souvla because we're going to take it to our gas grill and we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way, just like Americans like to do. Look at all the skewers I tried to put in this thing. It was totally pointless. So now we're just going to have to do this the classic American way. All right, so these are more predictable results because it's on a gas grill. Something I'm very well familiar with and I've used for many years. And yeah, that's what gives me results, and that's why I've used it all this time. Charcoal is another animal, and especially a rotisserie charcoal like the Souvla. I do want to learn how to do this on the Souvla grill, though. This is just a way out of the situation right now. This is not to say that I've given up on that grill whatsoever. Anyway, that looks close to ready. Oh boy. Well, didn't have much time to focus on doing some good chips, which is French fries for all of us Americans here. This is just lazily done wedgie kind of deep fried potatoes. I wouldn't even call these chips per se, but they're close enough, I guess, right? Let us now see where we stand with the Souvla here, the pork Souvla. Let's get that in there. Oh, come on, get in there. Well, that's actually pretty close to where it needs to be. I just can't get it really in there. 147. That's pretty close. We're getting there. We're not exactly totally behind. The chicken is already ready, of course, but there we go. 54. Okay, so I say give this another half hour, and this will be ready. And this most certainly is looking appetizing and also smelling quite appetizing. Well, this is a half Souvla chicken. It was half done on the Souvla and the other half was done on a gas grill. And let me tell you, it definitely tastes better than chicken that was done on a gas grill. So there is a Souvla-esque flavor to this thing that was imparted to it, even though I had to cheat at the end because this thing was just not staying on those skewers, and put it on the gas grill. So always nice to have a gas grill as a backup, I'll tell you that much. Oh, I have a nice crispy sound to it, isn't that nice? And in addition to chips, we'll have this Greek-style salad here. No tzatziki sauce. Didn't have the energy for that after all of the ongoing events here. Well, I don't have a Kio beer either. This is just an IPA. So don't have any olives either. It's kind of a little less than what I was expecting, but that's fine because I'm just learning how to do this. So this is an experiment. I don't have any guests coming over. This is the best way to learn. This Souvla has been on this grill for about 5 hours. Yeah, so I think it's ready. I'm gonna go ahead and try to take this thing off and finally give this a try. Okay, motor off. This does look pretty good. Oh, there we go. So now we're gonna take this to a bowl and cut her up. All right, let's see, is that ready? Is it just a bit pink? Oh, please tell me it's not pink. All right, let's take a close look at everything here. No, nothing looks pink here. This actually looks perfect. I don't think this is off by a tad. This is exactly well-cooked pork. That redness is normal for pork. That's not unusual. All of the deep areas here where the Souvla stick was, and you see, by the way, how well the shape was maintained. Pork is a very dense meat, so very, very good. So we got our salad, our chips, and our pork souvlaki, because the chicken is not 100% souvlaki. So this is what we cooked on this thing here for the course of 5 hours. I thought it was going to take 2, but I guess when you're inexperienced, it can take a bit longer. I still haven't tasted it yet, and let me see what it tastes like. Interesting. I'll tell you one thing. This is not gas grilled or oven baked pork, for sure. This is definitely quite different than what you get grilling on a gas grill and on a in the oven, for sure. Souvla. All right, a little post-mortem here. The grill works for sure. I mean, one of the main functions of a grill is just to plain and simply store your coals so that you can cook over it, right? So that function it fulfills very well. This little mechanism here works for sure. I'm not so sure the motor is really that great. Maybe this motor is a little bit lacking in torque, or I do feel it was struggling a couple of times, even though this has nothing to do with the fact that the chicken was slipping all the time, no relationship. But I do feel this motor was just a little bit underpowered for the job that it was supposed to do here. This mechanism over here actually ended up working just fine. I was quite pleased with the way this worked. I fixed this very well. That was not an issue at all in operation. So in that sense, 100%. To me, the big problem with the grill was the skewers, because this skewer over here, you could see this popped right out of here, and then later on when I was trying to handle this thing actually split. I don't know if you could see the wood split here. That's visible. Like if you take a look, there's a little line over here, and that split very bad. So this thing was not secured properly to the spit, made it very difficult to handle this, and I had the chicken fall a couple of times straight into the coals, which was very annoying, as you can understand. So yeah, bad, not very well made in terms of a spit. And of course, there are some spits that also have those, those teeth that come from both sides to hold the meat in. Although in this case, I think I needed more than that, because that chicken was slipping no matter what the heck I did to it. So skewer design was poor, and the fact that I could easily pull this out of the skewer is no good. This should be impossible to do, unless there was a screw in here, which there is not. This is not threaded, so it's not meant to do that. As for the rest of it, it really came down to being able to manage the heat over here. That's not easy. This is actually really takes a lot of thinking. This is definitely more thinking than a gas grill takes. You have to come prepared. You have to have enough coals to do this. You can't just, fill this thing up and think you're going to be fine over the course of 2 or 4 or 5 hours, as was the case with me. And that's tricky. And then, of course, the biggest problem here ended up being the skewering of the chicken, which was a total disaster. And I have to figure out how to get that chicken to just stay on there, because chicken is regularly done on these rotisseries all the time. So obviously I'm doing something wrong. I don't think it's a result of the skewer itself in this case. I think this is a result of how I secure the meat onto that skewer. And I don't know, I guess there's some secret there that I am not aware of yet, and I have to figure out. I can't say I'm happy with my end result, because with the pork, number one, I did undercook the pork a little bit in some areas because I didn't distribute the fire evenly at the end of the Souvla stick. And because of that, that bit of pork was underdone compared to the other parts of the pork. So distribution is very important of the coals, as is managing the coals. And the other problem is that I actually added some fire starter sticks of wood there to get the new coals going that I had put in there. And that had a certain smoke that came from it that started flavoring the meat in a very weird way that I didn't care for. So I ended up with meat that tasted a little weird. The chicken, oddly enough, came out pretty well because that's before I put those little lighter sticks in there. I finished that off on the gas grill, and that ended up being just fine. So the chicken actually, oddly enough, came out better. Anyway, you live and you learn. I'm very glad I had this first experience doing my souvla. I'm glad I didn't use marinades and all this other stuff to disguise any problems. Did a pure play, which is always a smart thing in my opinion. And I'm certainly glad I didn't waste the lamb on this thing. That costs about 3 times as much as chicken and pork does these days. So, yeah, I made some good calls, I guess. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I hope this video was interesting to you. If you have any suggestions or whatever, or comments, please feel free to drop them. And hopefully we'll do some more interesting cooking videos in the future. Thank you, and yes.